Travel insurance is basically a safety net you buy for your trip in case real life decides to show up and ruin your plans. And real life is good at that. Flights get canceled, bags disappear, people get sick at the worst time, passports get stolen, weather shuts down airports, cruise ship change itineraries, and sometimes just can't go anymore because something serious happens. Travel insurance is meant to protect your money and sometimes your health, depending on the type of coverage you buy. It's one of those things people skip when everything feels fine and then regret later when something goes sideways. Not always, but often. A lot of people think travel insurance is one thing, like you buy the travel insurance and you're covered. There are actually different types of coverage inside it. The two big buckets are trip protection, money protection, and travel medical, health protection. Some plans bundle them together, some don't, and some people only need one part. Knowing the difference matters. Trip protection is what covers you financially if your trip gets canceled, interrupted, or delayed. Trip cancellation coverage can reimburse prepaid, non-refundable trip costs if you have a covered reason you can't travel. Covered reasons are things like get sick, a close family member gets sick or dies, you're injured, your home gets damaged, you're called for jury duty, your airline has certain disruptions, stuff like that. Each policy has its own list, and yes, the list matters because your reason isn't on the list, they can deny your claim. Trip interruption coverage is similar, but is for when you already started the trip and you need to cut it short and return home. That can reimburse unused portions and extra costs to get back. Trip delay coverage is for when your trip is delayed long enough, like 6, 8, 12 hours, depending on the policy, and you have extra expenses like hotels, meals, transportation. Baggage delay is when your bags don't show up when you need to buy basics like clothes, toiletries, maybe a phone charger, and you keep receipts. Baggage loss coverage is if the luggage is lost or stolen and you need reimbursement for the value within limits. There's also missed connection coverage sometimes, which can help if you miss a cruise or tour departure due to a flight delay. It can get pretty specific, but that's basically the idea. Travel insurance can cover unexpected costs when travel logistics go bad. The other big bucket is travel medical insurance. This is a part a lot of people forget, and it's probably the most important part for international travel. Your normal health insurance may not cover you outside the US, or it might cover very little, or it might require you to pay out of pocket and file reimbursement later. If you end up in a hospital abroad, you might be paying cash or credit card on the spot. Travel medical insurance can cover treatment, hospital stays, doctor visits, prescriptions, and sometimes emergency dental. It also often includes emergency medical evacuation, which is a scary, expensive one. If you need to be transported to a better hospital or flown home, that can cost tens of thousands of more. People hear evacuation and think it's dramatic, but it happens, and you don't want to be figuring out the cost while you're injured in a remote area. So when do you actually need travel insurance? You don't always need it. If you're taking a cheap weekend trip 2 hours away and everything is refundable, you might skip it. But if any of the following are true, it becomes a lot more worth considering. You've prepaid a lot of non-refundable costs like flights, hotels, cruises, tours, or vacation rentals. You're traveling internationally, especially to places where healthcare is expensive or where your insurance won't work. You're doing activities with high risk like skiing, scuba diving, hiking, renting scooters, or adventure travel. You're traveling during hurricane season or winter storm season, where you have tight connections. You have health concerns, or you're traveling with kids or older family members. Your trip is a big deal that would hurt financially if it fell apart. Basically, the more money and complexity in a trip, the more travel insurance starts making sense. One of the biggest misunderstandings is people thinking travel insurance covers "I changed my mind." Most standard plans do not. If you want that kind of flexibility, you look for cancel for any reason coverage, usually called CFAR. CFAR lets you cancel for reasons not listed in the policy, like you're nervous about traveling, work got busy, you just don't feel like going. But CFAR is more expensive and it usually reimburses a percentage, often 50 to 75%, sometimes more depending on the plane. You'd often have to buy it within a certain time window after your first trip payment, like 14 to 21 days, and you may need to cancel at least 48 hours before departure. So it's not unlimited freedom, but it's more flexible than standard coverage. There's also interruption for any reason on some plans, but it's less common. And there are also named perils, plans versus more comprehensive plans. Comprehensive plans cover a broader set of things. Still not everything, but broader. Travel insurance also has exclusions. This is the annoying part, but it matters. Many policies exclude pandemics or have special rules about them. This changed a lot after COVID. Many exclude known events, like if a hurricane is already named and you buy insurance after it's named, you can't claim hurricane as a covered reason because it's no longer unforeseen. Many exclude risky behavior, intoxication-related incidents, and certain extreme sports unless you buy a plan that includes them. Pre-existing conditions may or may not be covered depending on the plan and whether you meet a waiver requirement, usually buying the plan shortly after booking the trip. So if you have medical conditions, that's a big thing to check. How does a claim work? Usually you pay out of pocket for certain things, like hotel meals during a delay or replacement clothes or a baggage delay, and then you file a claim with receipts and documentation. For trip cancellation and interruption claims, you'll need proof. Medical notes, death certificates, airline cancellation notice, etc. For medical claims abroad, it depends. Sometimes you pay and get reimbursed. Sometimes the insurer can pay directly, especially for larger emergencies, but not always. This is why it's smart to have a credit card with decent limit when traveling, because even when insurance, you might have to pay for first and get reimbursed later. People also ask if travel insurance is the same on the protection you buy from airlines or booking sites. Not exactly. Airline trip protection, sold at checkout, is often limited policy. Sometimes okay, sometimes not great, and sometimes expensive for what it covers. Booking sites often bundle insurance with terms that can be restricted. It's not always bad, but you should compare. Sometimes a separate policy can offer better medical coverage or evacuation coverage than the basic add-on. Credit cards can also include some travel protections, which confuses people. Some travel credit cards offer trip delay coverage, baggage delay, rental car coverage, and sometimes trip cancellation interruption coverage. But coverage varies a lot by card, and there are limits and requirements. Often you must pay for the trip with that card. Credit card coverage can be a great bonus, but it's not always a full replacement for travel insurance, especially for medical and evacuation coverage. Medical coverage for cards is often limited or non-existent. So how do you buy travel insurance smartly? Start by figuring out what you need. If you're mostly worried about losing prepaid trip costs, focus on trip cancellation, interruption coverage limits that match your trip costs. If you're traveling internationally, make sure medical coverage is strong and evacuation coverage is meaningful. Look at deductibles too. A lower deductible means you pay less out of pocket, but the plan costs more. Compare claim limits, exclusions, and whether pre-existing conditions are covered if you need that. And yeah, read the fine print at least a little, or at least read the key coverage summary. People hate reading insurance. I get it, but travel insurance is full of little rules like time windows and definitions. Those rules determine whether you get paid or not. Travel insurance is basically you paying a smaller, predictable cost to protect yourself against a much bigger, unpredictable cost. You don't buy it because you expect disaster. You buy it because you want to be able to handle a disaster without wrecking your finances. For simple trips, you might skip it and take the risk. For big trips, international travel, cruises, expensive vacations, or trips with family health concerns, it's usually worth it. Because the worst time to learn what your insurance does is when you're stuck in a foreign hospital or trying to figure out to fly home early with a suitcase that never showed up. That's not a fun learning experience.